Good morning and greetings to Alaska. This is the top of Vulture Peak outside Wickenburg. You can see the Hassayampa Valley and the Wickavar Mountains over in the distance there. This is the saddle point in the Vulture Peak. I'm going to see about climbing up to the rest of the mountain later. But right now I'm going to break and talk some anime.
Metropolis.
In the modern future metropolis, robots perform all the unpleasant chores for mankind. Society has been strictly divided among the robots, who mostly work deep below ground, the human workers, and the elites who live high in the skyscrapers. A popular industrialist, Duke Red, is leading the city in a celebration of his newest creation, the Ziggurat, the tallest skyscraper of them all, mankind's latest Tower of Babel. Of course, some humans don't care much for the robots. Duke Red is also the unofficial supporter of the Malduks, a political party with a private militia that makes sure robots don't stray from their assigned levels and tasks. You'd think properly programmed robots wouldn't stray, but these gentle creatures occasionally exceed their programming. Duke Red's young ward, Rock, is one of the Malduks. He's a rather callous, murderous bastard who's mostly interested in destroying robots and in pleasing Duke Red. The orphans had an awkward upbringing, for although Duke Red has raised him, Rock isn't allowed to call him father. Protecting humans isn't high on Rock's priority list, and he's indifferent to collateral damage. At the height of the Ziggurat festivities, investigator Shunjaku arrives from Japan. He's working with his nephew, Kenichi, in the search of an international criminal, Dr. Lawton, who, among other things, allegedly traffics in human organs. Since the city's police are busy with the Ziggurat celebration, they'll have to settle for the robot as their escort. It turns out that fugitive scientist, Lawton, is actually working for Duke Red, creating a super robot for him made in the likeness of Duke Red's dead daughter. This robot, Tima, is at the center of the story. Its activation goes wrong, and Tima ends up on the run with Kenichi, pursued by the ruthless Rock. Kenichi and Tima and their relationship and Tima's search for identity are the heart of this anime. Kenichi doesn't know that Tima is an artificial being. Neither really does Tima, though she may suspect it. Rock provides a dark contrast to Kenichi. Where Kenichi's affection for Tima drives him to unselfish acts of heroism, Rock's craving for the affection of Duke Red leads him to selfish acts of destruction. He jealously sees Tima as a rival for his father's love. Metropolis with robots selflessly serve humanity and turn the other cheek to the Luddites around them. Tima, born in the darkness below ground, is drawn to the light of the sun. There are politics to the film as well, with the government, the Malduks, Duke Red, the robots, and the workers all vying for their own version of social justice, a conflict that threatens ruin for all. Meanwhile, one lone Japanese detective doggedly seeks a single felon. Metropolis is based on a manga by the legendary Osamu Tezuka, but a little more background is probably called for. German director Fritz Lang made his Metropolis movie in 1927. Unfortunately, the original cut of that movie has been lost, so various different restorations are available. It was even colorized in one version. Lang's Metropolis has a society stratified into the elite living above and the workers slaving in the catacombs below. Maria is organizing the oppressed workers, searching for a bridge to the ruling class because between the brain that plans and the hands that build, there must be a heart. Vedder is the boss's son, but because he has the hots for Maria, he learns the cruel life of the workers. But Fredder's dad has a different plan, robots that will do the work more cheaply than humans and without complaint. He has a scientist kidnap Maria and make a robot double of her, then sends it down to discredit the workers, all so he can justify replacing them with more robots. Activating that first robot and duplicating Maria's appearance is probably the most famous scene from Metropolis. One thing about silent films, they're easy to dub into English. 25 years after Lang's movie, Tezuka created his Metropolis manga, one of the master's very early works. Tezuka had never seen Lang's film, only a few still images and vague descriptions, so he did his own thing. Tezuka's Metropolis is certainly not an adaptation. For one thing, its world is already full of robots, and so the human workers are doubly angry at both their harsh life and at the robots that are taking their jobs. But the robots here are also aggrieved, and this conflict may threaten to destroy the city. In this world, Dr. Lawton creates a new super robot, Michi, who in contrast to Maria and Tima, is an exclusively female. A few years later, Tezuka will recycle the notion of creating a super robot to replace a dead child in Astro Boy, who at first also doesn't know it's a robot. The anime Metropolis is directed by Rintaro, who worked with Tezuka and Mushi Productions on Astro Boy, and is also known for decades of animation, from Space Pirate Captain Harlock to Dagger of Kamui and X. Rintaro honestly tells us that when Tezuka was alive, Tezuka rejected a request to animate the early Metropolis manga. And so the movie waited until 2001, a dozen years after its creator's death. Another manga legend, Katsuhiro Otomo, who's also done a little anime directing on his own, provides the screenplay for Metropolis. They've restored some of the elements from Lang's Metropolis to Tezuka's work, such as making the robot female and returning to the vertical stratification of the classes. Working in the Madhouse studio, these anime legends created a state-of-the-art animation. You probably noticed that the character designs have kept a lot of the Tezuka look, with the eyes and hair that vaguely recall Astro Boy, and the wide bell-bottom legs of other Tezuka characters, even though that's all gone a bit out of fashion. Metropolis even recalls the old type of scene transitions that Tezuka used to play with in his Astro Boy, instead of the traditional jump cuts, dissolves, and fades.
I got this for you. I borrowed this from Atlas. I almost forgot.
The designs of the huge Metropolis are spectacular, all conceived in a retro homage to both Lang's film and Tezuka's manga. Above ground, the wealthy buildings borrow architecture from several eras. They shine in marble, glass, and metalwork, all meticulously detailed, as zeppelins and planes fly above. The streets at ground level teem with people, robots and cars going about their jobs. And in the uglier world below, there's a jumble of detail. This is a vibrant city, full of little details typical of life, constantly in motion, always evolving. Madhouse merged traditional 2D character animation and 3D computer graphics. This scene, where Shinshaku and Kenichi meet the city manager in his opulent, polished marble office, backed by a window complete with a giant holographic fish display and a view of a passing zeppelin, are typical of the movie's visual splendor.
I've never been to Metropolis before. It's rather confusing. Oh.
Well, of course, I'd like to help you. But these celebrations for the ziggurat are going on all week long. We've had a rash of crimes break out.
The soundtrack of Metropolis is just as unique as its visuals. There are a few pieces of traditional cinema music, but most of the soundtrack uses older, slow jazz and upbeat ragtime and blues vocals. The feeling is just as retro as the art designs. Late in the film, during a scene of considerable destruction, Ray Charles sings I Can't Stop Loving You, a choice as smartly unexpected as Dr. Strangelove's use of We'll Meet Again. Metropolis works on many levels. It's a dazzling work of visuals and sound that's still state-of-the-art a decade later. More importantly, it has several engaging characters in Kenichi, Tima, Duke Red, and Shinshaku. And thematically, it looks as both the light and dark side of love and the inequality of the classes. It fuses Lang's Weimar class warfare with Tezuka's post-war industrialism, the unhappy aftermath of two different world wars. I give Metropolis 5 stars. Metropolis is released in North America by Sony Pictures. In the English dub, they used a lot of familiar anime voices, and that worked out pretty well. While I give the Japanese voices a slight performance edge, the film is so beautiful it seems a shame to take your eyes off it to read the subtitles. Tezuka's manga has been translated into English, as well as French, Spanish, and plenty of other languages, I'm sure. The English edition, at least, is sadly now out of print. Thanks for watching.